I determined that I was going to stand up here and take just a minute to look at you. Not in a stalkerish, weird kind of way, but in a wow, look at you kind of way. There are so many incredible people in this room right now. And I'm going to do something a little unorthodox. I'm going to sing a song to you. And I'm a little nervous about this, okay? But I'm not going to sing the whole song. I'm just going to sing part of the song. So, and you're going to be thankful that I didn't sing the whole song, just part of the song. Okay, so here we go. And I want you to listen to the lyrics. They're right up here next to me. So here we go. This is called Extraordinary Magic by Ben Rector. You won't believe it, strange as it sounds, extraordinary magic follows you around, and the camera can't catch it. You won't see it in the mirror. If I say, look behind you, you turn around, it disappear, but I see it, I see it. I swear I do, I see extraordinary magic in you. So Zephaniah, oh yeah, I've got to do this clicker thing. Okay, here we go. So Zephaniah 3:17, it says the Lord rejoices over you with singing. And why does he do that? He does that because he loves you. He delights in you. He sees extraordinary magic in you. Although I don't think he would call it extraordinary magic. I think he'd call it something like wonder. In Psalm 139, David says, I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. David saw the wonder in all creation, including himself. He saw wonder in himself. I brought something today. Here, let me show you. I stole this from my neighbor's yard. It's a leaf. And she's a great lady. She won't mind that I stole this. She's a great lady. So this leaf, God made this leaf. And it bursts into life in the springtime. And then it's this radiant green all summer and creates this shade. And then when the cold comes and the wind starts blowing, this leaf turns this brilliant color of yellow. And we can look at this leaf and we can say, man, there's wonder in that. There's wonder in this leaf. And we can look at sunsets and we can say, oh, there's wonder in that sunset. But sometimes it's kind of hard to see the wonder in us. The wonder that God put in us. And I want to highlight a couple of things that God sees that maybe other people don't see, but God sees in you. Some of you have taken time after school during this semester to work with kids on their writing or on their math. Others of you have had conversations with kids that maybe you have forgotten and they didn't seem like a big deal, but to the kid it was everything. It meant the world. And the kid has changed because of it. Others of you are coaches and you're putting in extra time to give a kid a vision of what he can become. One of my football coaches is here tonight, Dave Strelo back here. Football coach from high school, young life leader. Guys, you are full of wonder. You're full of wonder. You're also full of Texas Roadhouse food, which is fantastic. Fantastic. But you're full of wonder. God has made you unique in your teaching style. He's given you a love that only you can bring to the table, a kind of love, a way of relating with people that only you have. God put that there. I want to ask you to do something. There's some response cards on your table. It says there's these they're like white little pieces of paper and they say lift on them. And on the back, you'll see 3 words, see, change, do. See, change, do. And there's some pens there, so you guys can pass these papers around. Pass around the pens. Turn it over on the side that says see, change, do. Before you write anything down, though, I want to invite you to do a couple of things. First thing you're going to do is I want to invite you to listen. In John 10, Jesus says, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. So I invite you to listen tonight to the shepherd's voice. You don't need to hear some speaker behind a podium. We need to hear from God. So I want you to listen to the Holy Spirit and see what he's saying to you as I talk. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to write down, well, you have those words right there in front of you. Those 3 words, do, see, change. I want you to write some things next to those words. The do question. I want you to ask yourself, and pray even while I'm talking. Pray, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? Is there something you want me to do? The second one is see. Is there anything, God, that you want me to see? Ask the Lord, is there anything you want me to see? And then the third is change. Ask God, is there anything, God, you want me to change about my life right now? Just be open, be listening, and see what God has to say to you. And at the end, we'll come back together and we'll spend some time praying through those questions, asking God to just give us an idea of his answer to those questions. But before we get there, I want to tell you a story about a 7th grader. So this 7th grader was excited. He was going to be at Cheyenne Mountain Junior High his first year. Very excited because he was going to have a locker. And he had never had a locker before. And the thing is, because of spacing issues, they moved the 7th grader into the 9th grade hallway where the lockers are 5 feet tall. And the 7th and 8th graders, they have 2 foot tall lockers. They have these little lockers. And this 7th grader, he was all excited. But the thing is, he was going to have to share with somebody. So he was fine with that. He was going to share with his friend Eric. And they plotted together about how they're going to decorate this locker. And so the 7th grader decided, I'm going to cut out a picture of John Elway. So he cuts this picture out. And John Elway is one of his heroes. And the Denver Broncos are huge for him. So he's all excited to put this picture of John Elway in his locker. So he tapes it up in the locker. And then they put up all the rest of their decorations. They put their books in the locker on the first day of 7th grade. And then they close the door and they walk out in their first day of 7th grade. They're all excited. And then a couple days later, that 7th grader comes back to his locker and he opens it up and he looks where John Elway was supposed to be, and he's there, but there's no head. John Elway's head is gone. And he looks down, and where John Elway was holding his helmet, that's where the head is. The head's right there where he's holding his helmet. And then he hears a snickering next to him. And he looks over, and these 9th graders are looking at him and they're laughing, and they're kind of big and he's small. And so he closes that locker and he just walks away. He doesn't do anything about it. And then a couple weeks later, that 7th grader comes back to that same locker as he had done every day, and he gets some of his books out. As he's getting his books out, he hears behind him someone say, "Hey buddy, what you doing?" And then he looks back and there's one of those 9th graders. And then he hears that awful snickering. And one of those 9th graders puts his arms underneath his armpits and lifts him up. And then another 9th grader grabs his feet. And the 9th grader that picked him up kind of lets him fall down. And then the 9th grader that has his feet begins to swing him around in the hallway. And the crowd starts to gather. And the 9th grader who's swinging him around has a girlfriend, and she's watching and she's laughing, and all the crowd's laughing. And then finally the 9th grader lets this 7th grader down on the ground. And then he walks away, and the crowd walks away, and that 7th grader's by himself picking up the change that had fallen out of his pockets, embarrassed and humiliated. You probably figured it out, but that 7th grader was me. How many kids are there out there that feel embarrassed and humiliated and believe this lie? And I want to tell you about this lie that I think I started to believe. It's a lie that I think this song from a musical called Dear Evan Hansen captures really well. The song is called Waving Through a Window. And in that song, Evan Hansen, the main character, he sings, step out of the sun to keep from getting burned. Step out of the sun to keep from getting burned. In other words, stay in the shadows. Because if you're in people's view, you're going to get made fun of. You're going to get hurt. And you don't have anything valuable to offer anyways. So stay hidden. It's safer that way. And I started to believe that lie. And in John 10, that same chapter where Jesus talks about the sheep hearing his voice and following him, he also says, he talks about a thief. He says, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I've come that you may have life and have it to the full. And I believe that in that hallway, that junior high hallway, there is an enemy who is trying to steal the abundant life that kid had. They want to steal his hope, his confidence, and make him feel like, yeah, your place is the shadows. You need to hide. And guys, there's kids like that all over the city who desperately need to be seen and know that they don't need to hide. Now, I think that two of the tools that the enemy uses, this guy that steals and kills and destroys, I think two of the tools he uses are isolation and fear. Isolation and fear. And I felt down on the floor in that hallway. And Elijah, one of God's prophets, he felt it too. There's a point where he felt it too. He was doing great in 1 Kings 18. He's a prophet of the living God. He's got this faith that's incredible, this strength, this confidence. And he even gathers the prophets of Baal, and he says, I'm going to take these guys on. And these guys represented everything that was dark and evil. They represented the thief that comes to steal and kill and destroy, and he's going to take them on. And he gathers all of Israel, and he says, I want you to watch this. And so all these people from Israel gather around, and he has this big altar that he sets up, and he's going to make a sacrifice to God, and he puts a bull on top. And the way that you make a sacrifice to God is you burn the bull. But this night, he says, I'm going to have God burn that bull in front of all of you. And he's so confident that he says, let's start dumping water on the altar. So they dump water on it. He says, do it again. And they keep dumping water. And then he prays. And by this time, it's starting to get dark. It's going to be nighttime. And he prays and he says, God, show these people what you can do. Show them who you are. And it must have been incredible because this fire comes out of the sky and it not only burns the bull, it burns the entire altar, the stone, the dirt, everything. It's all gone. And these people look at Elijah and they say, your God is the true God. Your God is the living God. And Elijah must have felt like, oh, this is awesome. So excited, so full of hope and confidence. And then 1 Kings 19 happens. He gets a death threat from Queen Jezebel and he runs for his life. He runs for a cave. And on the way there, while he's running to this cave, he prays to God. And he says, I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. He's given up. Here he had this confidence in 1 Kings 18, and all of a sudden, he's done. And then he gets to this cave, and he's hiding in this cave, and God comes into that cave, and he says, Elijah, why are you here? And he says it twice. Why are you here? I think a lot of us have asked that question before of ourselves. God, why am I in this hard place? Why am I here right now? Or why am I in this school right now? I think we can all relate to that. And when God asked that question, Elijah says, everyone has turned away and got from God and killed all the prophets, and I'm the only one left. You can hear the anxiety and the isolation, right, in that answer. Just like that seventh grader on the floor. I'm the only one left. And they're after me. He's afraid. That place of isolation and fear, that cave, is something we all can relate to. We've all been there before, where we feel anxious, or maybe we feel like there's too much on our plates, or maybe we feel alone. And the worst part of that cave is that there's no joy there. The joy's gone. And Nehemiah 8:10 says that the joy of the Lord is your strength. The joy of the Lord is your strength. So it makes sense if the joy of the Lord is our strength, and if there's an enemy, he's going to want to steal that joy from us, to make us incapable of reaching these kids, to make us incapable of pointing people to the hope that God offers. When I was in college, I had that joy in a big way. I went to a Christian college near Chicago, and I remember taking this class with this professor, Dr. Lundeen, a literature professor, and he was so good. I mean, he'd walk around the room and engage kids. He'd get face to face with a kid and kneel down and take off his glasses and say, what do you think about this? And the poor kid would be like, like just scared. But we'd have these great conversations about man's purpose and like the vacuum inside of us that only God can fill. And he'd use books like The Odyssey or Beowulf, I mean, these classics. And we'd be talking about things that really mattered. And I remember being in his classroom and thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could do this for the rest of my life, do what he's doing? Like, this is awesome. Have these kind of conversations and like talk about stories like this. And then I felt God kind of nudge me and say, this is what I want for you. This is what I want to do this with you. You're going to do this. And the more I thought about it, the more excited I got. And I took education classes like all of you have. And I was with classmates who were dreaming with me about having classrooms of our own. And it became a passion. I was pumped. But then student teaching came. And I had to go to Wheaton Warrenville South High School, the home of the Tigers, huge high school. And I felt like I was going to get eaten alive. I was terrified of those teenagers. And that lie that I need to step out of the sun to keep from getting burned, all of a sudden it came right up to the forefront. And it was on repeat in my head and my heart. I wanted to hide. But the problem is if you're student teaching, you can't hide. You need to be up there in front of all those kids. And they would throw things across the room, and they would yell things, and they would push boundaries, and I was overwhelmed. I remember driving to this high school, and I'd stop at the tracks when the commuter train would go by on my way to this high school, and I remember hearing the screeching of these wheels on this train. And it'd be early in the morning, the sun's not up yet. And I remember thinking, that's how I feel inside. That's the anxiety inside of me, screeching and churning. And eventually I felt, I need to call it quits. Like, there's no way I can keep this up. Like, this is not sustainable.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you haven't already subscribed and you'd like to get more of these videos, or you'd like to get the lessons that go along with them, or you'd like to get the stories that I send out once every 2 weeks about the powerful ways that God shows up in the public school where I work, then go ahead and subscribe on yourstoryhasanauthor.com and join me and others as we look for and celebrate the author of our stories together.